Hello, everybody. Oh, got my book upside down. It's a good start, isn't it? Welcome to episode 6 of Hello Again with me, Isabelle Broom. And today I'm joined by the author extraordinaire, Sophie Claire, who writes wonderful, escapist fiction, really. We're going to talk about your penchant for a bit of Provence coming up. But why don't you start by telling us, just introducing yourself to everyone watching.
Hello, I'm Sophie Claire. I'm half French, and most of my books are either set partly in Provence, or the one I'm working on at the moment is completely in Provence. And my latest book is A Forget-Me-Not Summer. Can you see that?
Yes. Beautiful.
Sorry?
Beautiful cover.
Oh, thank you. Yes, it's lovely. Love the sunflowers and the chateau. It's beautifully done. I've been really lucky with my covers, actually. They're all really gorgeous.
I love the way you say Provence. It makes me sound like a Philistine when I try to say it. It's the half French in you. You can say it properly. Say it again.
Provence.
Yeah. Oh, it's goosebumps hearing it like that. So the two books that you've written to date, they both have the same places in common. Do you want to talk us through your settings, your two primary settings even?
Yeah, so those two books have followed the pattern of starting in a little country village in England called Willowbrook, which is totally fictional. And the books are kind of connected because the characters know each other, but you don't have to have read one to read another. They're all standalone, and they tend to feature a trip to Provence. So in the Christmas holiday, Evie is trying to escape Christmas. And in A Forget-Me-Not Summer, Natasha's ex-husband turns up out of the blue 3 years after the divorce and asks her to accompany him to Provence to visit his family, who don't know about the divorce. So they have to pretend they're still married.
That reminds me of a time I was seeing a guy and we broke up, but we'd arranged to go to Toronto to see his brother. And on the flight over, we agreed we'd still go as friends. And then on the flight over, he was like, "Oh, by the way, you just pretend that we're still together?" Because I haven't told my brother yet. And he thought it'd be awkward. So I had to pretend that we were still going. It was so weird. It was very strange.
God, and why hadn't he told his brother?
I don't know. I think he was in denial. I don't know. I mean, it was fine, but we never told his brother. Maybe he still thinks so. I don't know. No, I'm sure he doesn't now. But yeah.
Oh, that's fabulous.
I remembered that. I'd forgotten all about that.
You write about these things, but a part of you thinks, would it actually happen in real life? Well, there you go.
Absolutely does. Amazing. What inspired you to create Willowbrook?
Willowbrook, just writers will understand this, readers will probably think I'm completely bonkers, but Willowbrook was just there. It just came into my head as characters and places do. You know, you can just see it. You just wake up one day and this place is in your head. And that's all it is, really. I think it's in the Cotswolds. It's that kind of, you know, lovely little yellow sandstone cottages kind of place. But when I went to visit the Cotswolds since as sort of research, I couldn't find a place that matched it exactly. So it's definitely fictional.
That's good, though, I think. I think it gives you a lot more freedom, doesn't it, if you have a fictional setting like that? Because otherwise you are a little bit reined in by... You can't stretch incredulity too far if you're writing about a real place.
Yeah. That really upsets people who know the place.
I know. I remember one of my books is set in Prague, and I remember quite an angry review saying that why hadn't I talked about the decorative drain covers in Prague, and you know, and I was like, well, it was snowing, you know, in the book it was snowing, so they wouldn't have been able to see them. That was my defense. So I was like, I didn't even notice them when I was there. But it really upset this woman. And I was like, oh God, I feel quite bad. Like, look down as well as up when you're traveling. Oh dear. So for anyone like me who's never been to Provence, I don't like saying it now because I can't say it. Where would you suggest going first if you were going to do a little tour of that area?
Well, one of the wonderful things about Provence is that it's so varied. So you've got the really glamorous, famous cities on the coast, like Nice, Monaco, Cannes, and little fishing villages on the coast as well, which are not as famous, but even more beautiful, I think, like Sanary and Cassis. And then further inland, you've got there's a canyon called the Gorge du Verdon, which is just stunning. And if you were into rock climbing, that would be an amazing place to go. But it also has lovely lakes, and just it's a beautiful area for walking. And then if you're a history fiend, there's Roman ruins dotted all over the region. There's Avignon, which was the where the popes lived for quite a short period, but they built some beautiful buildings there. I think if you were going for the first time, I'd recommend the trip that I did last year with my mum. And we stayed in the Luberon, which is Peter Mayle country. So you've got the vineyards and the lavender fields and loads of a real cluster of little beautiful hilltop villages. So there's lots of history there, there's castles, and it's just a beautiful place to be. And wherever you go in Provence, if you're a foodie, there will be stuff for you as well, because there's just wonderful markets and restaurants. And
I'm actually quite ashamed that I haven't travelled extensively in France. I kind of did when I was backpacking. I went to, sort of Paris, and I went to Bordeaux, I went to Nice, and just sort of skimmed along the top really, but I have never been back and never really, done a proper wine holiday. And it's so ridiculous because it's so close. I've been to New Zealand twice and I haven't been to the south of France, it is ridiculous.
Well, I kind of feel the same because I wouldn't want people to think that I was an expert on Provence. I spent all my summer holidays there as a child, but they were very much family holidays. So we did some sightseeing, but it was more about being with my grandparents and my extended family. And then it's only more recently that I've started going back as a tourist and properly exploring.
Yeah. It must have been because you spent your childhood there, it must have been so ingrained in you though, when you came to writing about it, it must have been quite such a joy, because it would have kind of, it sort of stays with you, doesn't it? Places that really get under your skin, they become part of your identity, I think, almost.
Yeah, I think it's impossible for me to write it without all the emotion that it carries. It's very nostalgic, actually. I do feel like I'm indulging in a guilty pleasure when I write about it. Yeah,
why not? It's your book and your story, and why not set it where your heart will. Do you think you'd ever branch out and write escapist fiction set anywhere else in the world? Have you got like a...
Yeah, I think I would. Yeah. So I've got an idea for a novel which might be set in Paris. But yeah, I think it's a bit dangerous to limit yourself just to one place. But for now, where are we? We're up to, I think I'm writing book number 5 and I've got number 6 planned. And so far, Provence has featured heavily, if not completely, in all of those.
Amazing. How have you found writing lockdown? Very quickly. We don't want to dwell on lockdown.
No, we won't. Well, it was really hard at first to concentrate. Did you find that?
Yeah, definitely. Like there was just this big wall of noise, wasn't there? That you felt like you had to check Twitter every 10 minutes in case something had happened. And it was so horrible. I think people reach out on social media for reassurance as much as anything. People are really sort of can be a bit jaded about the idea of Twitter, and Twitter just being, for trolls and for arguments. But actually, I found it quite a comfort as well, being able to connect with everybody. It would have been quite different if lockdown had happened sort of 30 years ago, before the internet and before, because essentially you can still see people, not physically, but you can see them. And that must have been a huge comfort to a lot of people, I think.
Yeah, and we're all sort of educating ourselves, aren't we? We're learning as we go about the disease and about how to handle things. And yeah, so at first I found it hard to concentrate, but I think now I'm in a much calmer place, and I'm really enjoying the book that I'm writing. I don't know if you get to this particular stage in the book, sort of about halfway in, where everything just clicks and you love your characters and you can't wait to spend time with them every day.
That is the dream, especially in the middle. You're lucky, because a lot of people struggle with the saggy middle, don't they? Where they kind of lose that momentum, because when you start a book, I don't know about you, but it's just sort of floods out of you, the story, because by the time you get to sit down to write, you're absolutely full of these characters and ideas, and you're just desperate to get pen to paper or hands to keyboard, and then you sort of occasionally run aground or run out of steam. But it's great to see that you're not. Well done, you're clearly nailing it. What is it that you love so much about escapist fiction in particular, that sort of travel holiday element, do you think?
I think it's the armchair travel, isn't it? I think we all want what we don't have. So I live in Manchester, which is quite cold. We don't get much sun. So for me, the ideal escape is to a really hot and sunny place. I'm sure if I lived in Dubai or somewhere, it would be the opposite. So I think it's that wanting to travel, and also learn about other places, because you do, don't you? You pick up so many little clues and details about a place when you're reading a book.
That's so true. So often you read about a place and you're desperate to visit. And it doesn't happen that often. It's quite rare, but when it's, I remember when I read the Potato Peel Pie Society, I'm not going to say the whole title, the potato book, I was desperate to go to Guernsey after that, like absolutely desperate to find out all about the history and the occupation and everything like that. And I finished it and booked a flight pretty much 2 weeks later and went over just to explore on my own.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah. I love that book. It's a beautiful book.
Amazing book, isn't it? It's one of my favourites at the time.
And did Guernsey live up to your expectations?
It did. It's so beautiful. It's kind of quaint, and it feels like stepping back in time almost, because it feels like it's a little way behind, but not in a bad way, and actually in a good way, in quite a charming way. And I think the contrast between that and somewhere like London is obviously massive, but now I live out in Suffolk. It doesn't feel that different to Suffolk, actually. It's lots of wildflowers and long walks and great views, and we have all that here, but you obviously have the sea in Guernsey, and they do have some pretty incredible beaches as well. And there's a little island called Herm, which is just across from Guernsey, and the beaches there are like some of the best I've ever seen. And I've been all over the world, so pretty impressive. I'd like to go back, actually. Should maybe do that. I don't think they'd see at the moment, though, would they?
Yeah, I think the other thing escapist fiction does is remind you of places if you have been there. So I'm enjoying your book at the moment, Hello Again, and it's reminding me of a lovely trip we had to Barcelona a few years ago.
Oh, I do. Yeah, I love Barcelona. I hadn't been. I went when I was backpacking, so when I was 19, about 150 years ago, and I'd loved it then, but I'd never been back. It's always kind of on my radar, and then I went back obviously last year to do research, and it was like so different, the way that sort of city built up, even in that small sort of space of time. But it's an incredible city, and it's so buzzing and it's so colourful and proudly chaotic, isn't it? And all the art is just dreamy. I love all the Gaudi stuff. Is just all
the mosaic. It's beautiful.
It's otherworldly. I've always been a big fan of things that are a little bit off, like skew with way of looking at the world, and he's very much like that. I like Picasso's later work as well for the same reason. It's like you stepped inside someone else's dream almost.
Yeah.
I think all the great artists sort of do that, don't they? Invite you into their world in some way.
Yeah.
So yeah. Oh, I want to go on holiday.
We all do.
You could pick your fingers now and transport yourself somewhere. Where would you go?
If I could click my fingers, I think I'd go somewhere far away because I'm a really poor traveller. So for me, the thought of going to Australia or New Zealand is pretty much impossible unless I took 3 weeks getting there and really broke up the journey. So I think somewhere like that on the other side of the world, which in real life I'm very unlikely to ever get to.
It is a hell of a journey, New Zealand, to do it in one sitting, or 2 sittings it is, because you fly. The quickest way I think is to fly to Dubai and then fly out again. I did it in 2 sittings last time I went. Yeah, and it's long. It takes you a couple of days to recover, but actually it's, you know, as long as you time it right, it's fine. I mean, I don't sleep on planes, so, but I do a lot of sort of reading and audiobooks, and yeah, I can pass the time. But yeah, I'm a little bit mentally scarred by almost not getting home. So I think for now, I'm going to stick to short haul, stick to Europe for the next couple of years, I think.
Yeah.
So what's been your sort of ultimate writing highlight so far? And also, what is your ultimate dream?
The highlight, I think, was seeing my book in shops. So in the local bookshop in the little independent down the road, in Tesco last week. That's just amazing. And I think every writer's dream is to see their book made into a film, isn't it?
Yeah.
With Brad Pitt as the leading role and a beautiful soundtrack.
That'd be lovely. I think your books would make amazing films. If you think about the settings, it'd just be glorious, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, why haven't they done it?
I keep having the same conversation with all my author friends. It's like, when are Netflix just going to realise that they're just, you know, we could hand them a gold mine. Everyone will want to watch it. Some of the stuff on Netflix, I think, God, if people are watching these films, they definitely watch a film of my book, because that's better. But yeah, I mean, surely it's all about who you know, right? Got to find out who these people are and then bombard them with love, until they
definitely.
give in. Yeah. I wonder if people that like Jojo Moyes and people that have had their books made into films, I wonder what their ultimate dream is. Like having sort of gone through that ceiling and then just keep going. They must just keep. Writing's good for that, though, I think, because you're constantly readjusting your kind of ambition or your expectation for your own career, because there's always another thing that you can, another sort of hurdle to jump over, isn't there? Another sort of thing to achieve.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder what they do dream of.
I'll have to get her to come on this and ask her. I'm sure she's not busy at all. Oh, dear. We've reached the quick fire round at the end. And usually I do a traditional drum roll at this point, so I'm going to do a little. These are like quick fire, first thing that comes into your head, question and answers. Okay, ready?
Okay.
Right. I'm going to ask this. I've asked this question already in a previous quickfire round, but it's very popular. So I'm going to ask you again. Mr. Bingley or Mr. Darcy?
Oh, Mr. Darcy, definitely.
Except me. I love Bingley.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, I'm all over Charlie Bings.
Okay.
Why Darcy? Is it because of the brooding and the big house?
Yeah, he's just more interesting. He's more complicated, isn't he?
That's what puts me off. I like the simpleton. I think Bingley is kinder at heart. I think that's why I'm drawn to him.
Yeah, gentler.
Yeah. More
dependable. That's a good thing.
That is true. Darcy is like archetypal romantic hero, though, isn't he? I mean, so there's so many other sort of romantic heroes in books that fit the Darcy mould in some sort of regard, aren't there? The arrogance and the thinks he knows better than everything and learns his lesson type thing.
Yeah.
True pioneer.
Yeah, but he's a softy underneath, isn't he?
Yes, he is. Like a dime bar. No, that's not right. They're hard. I don't know what I'm talking about. I really want a dime bar, though. I keep thinking about them. I feel like I've got this thing in my head where I really want one. Austen or Bronte, as we're on that subject?
Austen. But if you'd asked me that question 20 years ago, I would have said Bronte, definitely.
Oh.
So,
Yeah, I got back into Austen, but in quite a big way. And I've been listening to Pride and Prejudice read by Rosamund Pike, and it's so good, it's so fun. And I just think Jane Austen was so funny, isn't she? You forget that. I think, you know, she was such a good, her characters are so real and feel sort of authentically modern now when you read them. It's incredible thing that she achieved.
Yeah, definitely. My favourite book is Emma, and I do agree about the humour. I don't think I would have got any of it 20 years ago. I think I did try and read the books and just thought, much preferred Jane Eyre and stories like that, whereas now I just find Jane Austen so much more uplifting.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And I think any book that you sort of forced to study at that sort of tender age, you just turn against in a way, because you first of all, you sort of break it down into so many pieces that it loses its story thrust, doesn't it, when you know too much about it, I think. Because I remember studying Jane Eyre and just becoming really sick of it and just saying, oh, I don't want to write about the motivations of this, that, the other anymore. You know, and maybe in my head I'm still a bit like, that book's not my favourite for that reason, because it's lots of people's favourites, isn't it, Jane Eyre?
It is. The one I really don't understand is Wuthering Heights. Why is that anyone's favourite?
People love that though, don't they? The wildness of it and the sort of, I suppose,
but
a tragic love story.
Yeah. No, I will stick with Emma. I much prefer Mr. Knightley and that whole world. Yeah.
Have you seen the new adaptation, the one with Johnny Flynn?
No, I haven't. But when it came out, I can't remember why I couldn't get to the cinema to see it. But when it came out, it made me rewatch the old one with Gwyneth Paltrow, and I still really enjoyed that.
Is it Johnny Lee Miller who's in that one?
I think so.
Maybe he was in the TV version. I can't remember. But yeah, I remember the one with Gwyneth Paltrow. But you must watch this one because it's really good. And Bill Nighy's in it, and he's hilarious. He plays Emma's father, and he's absolutely brilliant. Well, he's brilliant in everything that he ever does. And Johnny Flynn is absolutely heart melting. It's really, really good. Highly recommended. Right, next question. Glam night out or cozy night in?
Cozy night in, definitely.
Yeah, I think we're all like, I mean, imagine if you were a proper, you know, night owl, night out type person. Lockdown would be really screwing with you, whereas actually being given them permission to not go out at all and have every night like curled up on the beanbag with a glass of wine is a real gift.
Yeah. Please do what you do best. Oh, okay then. Yeah. I think lockdown must have been so hard for those people and for extroverts. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Not being able to talk to people other than your own family.
Those people that have created those Zoom pub quizzes where 200 people like play quizzes and you get celebrities to ask questions and stuff because they just have to keep pushing their boundaries. But maybe it's been good for everybody in a way that it's kind of brought families together, and I don't know, maybe I'm desperately putting a positive spin on it because it's my way of coping. Right.
There's always positive though, isn't there?
Yeah. What one word would best describe your books?
Uplifting, I think.
Yeah, that's a good one, you see, on the positive spin. I'm always stumped by that question. You know, when someone asks you, well, what do you do for a living? And then you have to tell them about your books and you lose the power of speech and you go, whoa, and start apologising for ever having picked a pen up. It's such a weird thing, isn't it? It's
it is weird.
Imposter syndrome.
Yeah, and my worst question is, so what's your book about?
Oh no, I know.
Let me just check the blurb. Why is it that your brain just goes blank when anyone asks you that?
And I always go, well, it's about this girl who's like, well, you know, she's a bit like that. And they're like, you used to watch their eyes just glaze over. I'm like, I tell you what, just read the back. Yeah. Should carry one around as a prop at all times.
Yeah.
Just send them to the internet. Look at my website or something like that. Yeah, no, it is very strange. Okay, my final question is, what's the strangest thing that's ever happened to you?
Oh, I'd love to be able to tell you that I've seen a ghost or something really exciting like that. I think I'll have to go with the weirdest or most surreal thing, which is for our 10th wedding anniversary, my husband learnt to play the bagpipes because at our wedding I walked down the aisle to Amazing Grace, played on the bagpipes. My father's Scottish. And for our 10th anniversary, he secretly learned to play the bagpipes. I had no idea about this. And on the day, I think my in-laws had come around for afternoon tea or something, and he suddenly vanished. And then this really loud music started up playing Amazing Grace. And he came out of the house holding these bagpipes and looking as if he was playing them. And I think my brain just thought, well, of course he's not playing them. He just played the bagpipes. At which point I was just really confused and just couldn't understand what was happening. Anyway, yeah, so that was a really strange moment, but it was such a lovely surprise.
That's quite an incredible thing, to learn to play the bagpipes. I don't imagine it's very easy.
No, it's not easy, and it's not a quiet instrument, so I don't know where and how he practiced.
Maybe he's got like a secret sort of, if he got a shed, maybe soundproofed it or something secretly. Does he still play bagpipes now? Does he get them out on a Sunday afternoon and just go through a few songs?
No, he still got them, but he doesn't play them anymore. So that was about 12 years ago. But they are really, really loud. So he learned to play them when we were out. So whenever I was out with the children, apparently he would get them out. And he was really worried that the neighbours would tell me before the anniversary dates and say, what's that really loud noise your husband's been making?
There's something really lovely though about the bagpipe noise. I think it's really evocative, isn't it?
I love it. I think it's a Marmite thing.
It really does. It's a very sort of commanding sound in a way.
Yeah, it is. It's lovely, and that piece, Amazing Grace, is just amazing. Played on it.
Google it, I think. Amazing Grace played on the bagpipes. We should all do that. Maybe I'll link it somehow with this YouTube video. I don't know how to do that, but there must be a way. I'm still learning. Right, before we go, hold up your book again so everybody can have a little look-see. Amazing. Forget myself. Why is mine? Mine's all around. We're getting used to this newfound technology fandango. And Forget Me Not Summer is out in paperback now, and it's also available on ebook. Audio?
Yes.
Yes, love an Audible. This is exciting. And can you tell us anything about your new book and when it will be out? Your next book, sorry.
My next book is called A Winter's Dream, and that will be out on 1st of October, I think. And that's about a girl who feels that her life is stuck in a rut, so she challenges herself to say yes to everything for the month of December.
Oh, amazing. I love that. I bet no wonder you're having so much fun. Is this the one you're having a lot of fun writing?
No, that one's finished.
You're racing ahead. Put me to shame. I'm supposed to be spending this afternoon writing, so I am going to go and make some lunch and then, brain food, that's what I call it. Might go out and get a dime bar. Who knows? Thank you so much for coming to talk to us. And thanks to everybody for listening. Make sure you tune in next week when we'll have someone else equally exciting coming and taking the hot seat. Okay. Bye, everybody.